Halloween is among us. It's coming up. How many of you remember growing up in the late 90s to early 2000s? Some of you, of course, grew up in the 80s. It was a nostalgic time. Do you remember when we used to have cable and there actually used to be good content? There would be marathons of certain horror movies like Friday the 13th or Halloween or the Nightmare on Elm Street series, and there would just be a marathon. And instead of streaming on like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime Video, we would watch it as a collective. Maybe not in the same house, maybe not in the same room, but we would watch it at its regular scheduled programming, and then we would talk about it the next day, and we could all relate to and talk about what we watched together. And the magic of just trick-or-treating, something that doesn't happen as much today because a lot of trunk or treats have replaced the act of trick-or-treating itself. And I don't know about you, like the spirit of Halloween is still alive, and especially in places like Salem, Massachusetts, which I got to visit for the first time a couple of years ago. If you've never been and you're into Halloween, I think Salem, Massachusetts might do Halloween better than any other town in America, or at least it's up there because they go all out. And it happened to be, while I'm on the topic, it was a gloomy, cold October, I think 20th, 25th, something like that. It was gloomy and rainy, chilly, and it was just packed. People were going all out, and so just added to the aesthetic. But anyways, it's getting to be that time of year. The temperatures are starting to drop, and I think that people are excited about Halloween, but a lot of streaming services have, in my opinion, taken away that nostalgic feel that it once had on us. And I feel like small businesses used to go all out, like with the decorations, with the availability of costumes, with the theming within the business itself. Now things are just very bland, gray, corporate. And so you don't really, it doesn't feel as nostalgic. Of course, in the ads we had as kids, in my opinion, growing up in the 90s, we had the best channels to decide to watch, whether it be Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, what you would sometimes get on the WB, the Disney Channel, even the original programming, Halloween Town and Under Wraps, about the mummy. That was super nostalgic and actually just very fitting for the time. And who could also forget the Hocus Pocus film directed by Kenny Ortega. It's just a classic with Bette Midler and the whole group there. So we're getting into that time of year. A lot of people are posting their decorations up on Instagram. A lot of people are with the smartphone generation the last few years. People will go out and go full out on the decorations for their house. They'll go out and get the biggest, inflatable they can find, and that's great. And they'll put pictures of it up on Facebook, Instagram, make TikTok videos. But there's too many trunk or treats, I feel like. I think things are still a little too corporate. The craving is there. People want to escape and go into that nostalgic time that they had back in the 80s and 90s, right? You're seeing the demand of physical media, actual DVDs, Blu-rays, even VHS for collectibles, even some people going all out to, collect the VHS tapes and getting the classic rewinders. I see a surge on this app and on many other social media apps where kids are actually going and getting and buying these nostalgic devices to play the material. And so I think that's really cool because, in the age of streaming, we don't really own the material that we're purchasing. We're technically renting from the services that we're using. And no one wants to go and, it could be taken away from you based on the licensing, whether a company gets bought out. So it's actually better, a lot of people are finding out, to own the actual physical media itself. I was thinking about this VHS that we got as kids at McDonald's. It was the animated Ronald McDonald Adventures VHS. Now, I don't remember if we paid for it or not. I don't know if it was free with a meal. I believe we might have purchased it for a couple of bucks. You know, that was such a good time. Like, it was way better than what I expected it to be. And the same people that animated that movie also were the same folks that animated, I believe it was Rocket Power and maybe the Rugrats, but don't quote me. But the animation was there. It was original. It just takes me back to such a nostalgic time. But while I'm on this subject of animated Halloween films, I can't forget about The Halloween Tree, based on the novel written by Ray Bradbury. This movie was incredible as a child to watch. Now, it premiered on Cartoon Network, but I believe as a child around 1998, we had a local movie gallery. And I would check that movie out there at the local movie gallery, along, of course, with my go-to, the 1989 Batman starring Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. But ever since the release about a week ago, or maybe 2 weeks now, of the Starbucks pumpkin spice latte, I was like, there's a fall chill in the air. The temperature started dropping. And there's just this, it's one of the best times of the year. And I plan on doing a video of the top horror movies of Halloween. I'm thinking about doing a video based on that. I think that would be a lot of fun. You have the classic Halloween, of course, from 1978. But then you have, of course, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I believe it was released in 1974, the year right after The Exorcist. And, of course, The Exorcist was ahead of its time. Then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was way ahead of its time. But then, in 1978, you have John Carpenter's Halloween. And that might be my favorite Halloween movie in terms of scary / slasher. And then, of course, we have the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets. And that's great too. But for me, it's not just the Michael Myers and the mask and all that he wears. It's the actual John Carpenter. I think he's really good at making it eerie, and just the soundtrack is amazing. That soundtrack was perfect for that movie. He did that also himself. And the stalking of Michael Myers in the beginning of the movie, Laurie approaching her, going down the alleyway, following her from behind, hiding in the bushes. I thought that was perfect. So I'll do a video on that. But what say you? What do you think about the upcoming Halloween season? I think we had the best, those of us in the 90s, early 2000s, and then a lot of you who grew up in the 70s and 80s had a great one as well. It was a great time to be alive. It was before smartphones. It was a simpler time, and not because the times were actually better, but because we were more in the moment. We were more engaged in the moment. We had more of a community. Like Halloween was a community activity. We would all do these things together as friends, dress up, go out, and everybody sort of took it serious back in the day. There wasn't such thing as a trunk or treat. I refuse to acknowledge a trunk or treat. Like, that is not the Halloween magic when you envision Halloween. Showing up to a parking lot where there's treats in people's trunks is that's not what we had. That is not Halloween. And, I think a lot of parents are looking at it from a safety perspective, but if you think about it, there's nothing really wrong. And people are like, well, our kids are getting abducted now. They weren't getting abducted then. According to who? Like, do you remember, those of you who are old enough to remember, the milk carton? There were kids on that thing all of the time, right? There was always a kid on a milk carton, a missing kid. There's kids missing in every city all over the place. I was just recently at the job site, and I was looking around the office at all the missing people that we would get that advertisement. People would bring in those missing children advertisements, and you would think Pennywise was living around there with all the missing kids that happen every couple of weeks. They would come in and bring us new forms of the missing people in the area. But Halloween's on its way. I can feel it in the air. What say you? What is your favorite Halloween movies? What's your favorite Halloween movie? What is your favorite Halloween marathon that they would do on TV? And what's the best Halloween that you remember? And what did you dress up as? I'm curious to know. Let me know in the comments. And if you like what you watch, feel free to subscribe to my channel.